as well. So just get yourself onto your blocks, or onto your blocks or a folded blanket. So a folded blanket, or if you haven't got a folded blanket or a block, then just use a towel, because a big towel will be plenty for you to sit on. So just sit on your lift and then just roll over, move the buttock flesh back and out to the side, just so that you're sitting firmly on your seat bones, and then just draw your legs so that you're in a good cross-leg position. So drawing the knees together so that the feet are effectively underneath your knees, and then grip around the fronts of the knees and then lift the chest, drive the spine upwards. So lifting the abdomen up towards the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is across here. Lift the abdomen up to the diaphragm, lift it up towards the collarbone, and then draw the shoulders down so that the neck becomes long. Just take a few deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Keep the head lifting upwards, but allow your eyes to look down towards the floor. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. And then bring your hands into Namaste. Press the palms of the hands really firmly together, stretching the fingers upwards. And then lift the chest, shoulders down. Just listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Long, slow, deep, deliberate in-breaths. Long, slow, deep, deliberate out-breaths. Maintaining softness in the jaw, softness in the tongue. Wherever your next exhalation comes, just allow your eyes to gently close. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters, traveling down into the bottom of the lungs, and then draw the energy from that breath, from the bottom of the lungs down into the abdomen. Long, slow, deep, deliberate in-breaths, deliberate out-breaths. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone. Hold on to that feeling. And then just gently release the backs of the hands down towards your knees. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. So just come off your blocks or your blanket and then come into Adho Mukha Virasana. So the big toes are together and the knees, if you can see, the knees are wide apart. So get your thumb right into the back of your knee and then encourage the calf flesh to draw away from the backs of the knees, rolling out to the sides as you sit back down on your heels. Just spend a moment just letting your legs get used to the feeling of pressing down into the floor. Press your hands down onto the thighs and then really work to try and lift the front chest upwards. So you drive the front chest up, bend your elbows behind you and then squeeze the elbows towards each other. Soften the jaw, soften your tongue. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits, and then come forwards. Spread the palms, press down into the seat bone, so push the hands firmly into the floor, spread down, spread the palms down into the floor, keeping the arms nice and straight, keeping the head lifted to start off with. Aiming to maintain the contact between the seat bones and the heels, and then bring your head down. If you lose contact between the seat bones and the heels, then use a block or a blanket so you can hit back into the heels. So use the breath to draw down into the abdominal region, long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Pushing down on your heels with the buttocks and stretching the arms firmly away. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Just come up onto all fours. Have your little fingers right on the edge of your mat if you're using a mat. If not, then just bring your hands shoulder width apart. Spread the fingers, spread the palms, and then turn the toes under and bring your toes as wide apart as the mat as well. And then bend your knees, keep the knees really quite acutely bent, and then tilt the tailbone up towards the ceiling. So the more you tilt the tailbone upwards, the more you will move into your shoulder blade region. Press the shoulder blades forwards towards the front chest. Keep the arms straight by locking the outer elbows inwards. Push the hands firmly into the floor. Tilt the tailbone up. Let the head hang down. And then slowly begin to straighten your legs, tighten in your kneecaps, but keep the tailbone lifting up towards the ceiling. The more you work the kneecap into the socket, the more you open the back of the knee, the more you open the energy of the backs of the legs. Lift the frontal thigh muscle firmly into the, press it firmly into the bone and lift it up towards the top of the leg. Hit the inner heels away a little bit. Breathe in nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. If I'm holding you for too long, then you can rest down. If you can stay and maintain, continue to work the kneecaps into the sockets, hitting the thigh muscle into the bone and making that frontal thigh muscle lift up towards the top of the leg. Breathe in nice and softly. Step forwards, just come up into a standing position. And although you can't see the top of me, I want you to align the edge of your feet with the edge of the mat. So your toes are kind of effectively turning inwards. Have your hands on your hips. Get those kneecaps to tighten. So these are kind of relaxed kneecaps. I want you to see if you can lift the kneecap, tighten the kneecap so the kneecap draws into the socket. Lift the kneecap, hit the thigh muscle into the bone, reach up, stretch the arms up, lift into the little finger side. Bring your thumb into the crease of the elbow. Wrap your fingers around the elbows. Keep the head lifted as you come forwards, hinging at the hips, and then hang down. But maintain the action of your legs. So you're tightening your kneecaps. You're drawing this kneecap up into the socket. You're making the thigh muscle lift up towards the top of the leg. Just let the top of the body hang down, but the legs lift up towards the ceiling. Breathe nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. Keep the jaw soft, keep the tongue soft. Long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And then release your hands down to the floor. Bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. So we're going to do a couple of variations of Trikonasana. So what you need is, you'll need a chair or something high enough. I'm going to use the edge of this radiator here. So just something that's kind of relatively sturdy. I'll show you what we're going to do. So let me see if I can kind of get it so that you can see most of it. So you're going to be in Tadasana to start off with, and then you just got to find a position where you can just bring your heel onto your lift. So just find something that you've got, like a chair will do, or if you've got a coffee table or something along the lines of that, then just find somewhere that you can lift that leg up onto. Great. Okay, so you're going to stand. We're going to lift the right leg. We're going to lift the right leg first. So lift the chest, spread the fingers, spread the palms, spread the toes, and then we're going to lift this right leg and then bring it onto the lift. So you can just see my toes there. Bring your hands onto your hips. So there's an action of driving down into this standing leg. So can you really feel that you're pushing this standing foot firmly into the floor, and then you're lifting the leg up and away from the standing leg? And then can you reach your arms up? So the arms are parallel. So lift the arms up towards the ceiling like you're doing Urdhva Hastasana. Keep stamping that standing leg firmly on the floor, reaching up. So you reach into the tips of the fingers, and then bring your arms out so that they're in line with your shoulders. So I want you to keep standing firmly on this standing leg, and then you're going to reach over and you find the shin. Now, as you find the shin, make the heel of the hand make contact with the shin. But as you reach over this way, in Trikonasana, this leg, the right leg, always gets the all of the weight, and you forget about this standing leg. So I want you to, while you're here, the more you push into that standing leg, the more you can lift up into the spine. So keep really pressing that standing foot firmly into the floor. Turn the chest to face the ceiling. Breathe nice and softly. Okay, and then just gently release. And then whatever you're using, put it on the other side so that we can do the other side. So it's all about this standing leg. So bring your leg up onto the lift. So go nice and wide. So nice and wide with this leg. And again, I want you to really stamp this standing leg down onto the floor. Flex the heel of this foot, pull the toes towards the kneecap. And then lift the chest, reach up, stretch your arms up towards the ceiling. Breathe nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Bring the arms sideways, stamp that right leg firmly into the floor. So really, the standing leg really presses firmly into the floor, and then reach over. Find the shin. So again, as you reach over, do you let your weight kind of collapse into this foot, or can you keep the standing leg, keep that standing leg really firmly planted downwards? So keep really, the more you plant that foot downwards, the more you lift up from that foot, the more you can extend into the spine. So see if you can really get that standing leg to remain as super firm as you can get it. And then come back, release the leg, and then just move your equipment out of the way. So we're going to do Trikonasana. Now, I'm in my loft, so I can't really jump because the floor isn't very strong. So, I mean, don't worry, I'm not going to fall through it, but I just don't want to jump in here. So step your feet nice and wide. I want you to turn your left toes in slightly and then rotate the right leg and foot all the way out. Now, straight away, as soon as we turn this leg out that way, there's this feeling that you're kind of going to collapse down into this leg, isn't there? In fact, often the hips kind of just sink, and this hip sinks inwards, and then all of your weight drives down into this leg. So I want you to suck this hip inwards a little, and then just like you were standing on the floor with that standing leg. Can you all feel that? I think everyone's on mute, so I can't hear you, but so
yeah, I can feel that.
You can feel it, good. So you've got to really work down into that foot like you're still standing on it, and then as you come over, keep working that leg like you're still standing on that leg, and then find the shin, press the hand into the shin. Now the weight will want to go into that right foot, so stand that leg downwards. As soon as you stamp that leg down, you lift into the chest, reach up, turn the chest, and then look forward. Keep that standing leg really, really firm. Rotate in the chest. Keep that standing leg like you're still standing on it. So this left leg is what I'm calling the standing leg. Keep it really firm, and then come back to the center. Bring your feet onto your hands onto your hips. Bring your feet parallel. So does everyone feel that? Can everyone feel how that action is? Yeah, I'm getting some thumbs up. Okay, great. Yeah. So turn your right toes in, sorry, and then the left leg and foot all the way out. So again, just notice that when you turn this foot, the weight wants to just kind of collapse down into there. So we work down into that leg like you're still standing on it, and then you lift into the chest. So stand down on that leg like it was the standing leg, and this one was the lifted leg. Lift the chest, and then keep standing on that leg as you come over. That gives you length in the spine. So keep reaching over, but stand firmly on that leg, and then reach up. So the more you stand down on that leg, the more you extend into the spine. Breathe nice and softly. Keep this leg nice and firm, lifting nice and firmly, turning the chest, look up. Breathe in nice and softly. If this leg starts to get heavy, then work to stand into that other leg. Okay, and come back to the center, and then step or jump your feet back together. Good. And then just be in Tadasana for a moment. Is the noise of the trains going past, is that distracting?
No, it's fine for me, Mike. It's not a problem.
Okay, great. So we're going to do that same thing again. Get in the standing. So get your lift to your right side, and then we're going to lift this leg again. And then just make sure that you step far enough away from the lift. So it's this leg. We have to really firmly work deeply into that heel, and then lift up away from that heel. Have your hands on your hips for a second. But then I want you to point your toes forwards. So point your toes forwards as much as you can. Now there's quite a lot of restriction here, isn't there, in the groin area? But turn the toes forwards, and then notice what happens with that back hip. This back leg hip, the right hip, sticks out, doesn't it? So do the opposite. Turn those toes towards the back of the room. Turn the toes to face the wall behind you. And then this back leg hip, this buttock, pushes forwards. And then do it again. So I'll do this so you can see backwards, see the kind of back side of it. So when you point the toes forwards, this hip sticks outwards. When you turn the toes back, this hip sticks, kind of comes inwards. And that's what we want. We want that back hip to move forwards. So think about what you do with the rest of the leg. When you turn those toes to the back of the room, what you're really doing is turning this inner thigh from the inner thigh around to the outer thigh. So it's the whole of the thigh turns. So point your toes backwards, lift the chest, stand nice and firmly on the standing leg, keep turning those toes back so you're rotating this inner thigh around to the little toe side, and then find the shin. So do that standing Trikonasana again. So the more you turn here, the more that right buttock pushes forwards, but then the standing leg wants to hit forwards as well, doesn't it? So you've got to turn this thigh, push that hip forwards, but then resist it with the standing leg. Make that standing leg as firm as it was before. You're really standing firmly on that leg. So when you try and push the right hip forwards or the right buttock forwards, you're resisting it with the lifted leg. Okay, and then let's come back to the center. So do you feel that? Do you feel that action in the hips? So the standing leg maintains its firmness, but then the hip on the other side needs to kind of come inwards. So just on the other side, so lifting that left leg this time, standing on the right leg. Again, just see what happens when you point the toes forwards. This hip, this buttock sticks outwards. And then if you rotate the whole of the leg, so the toes point backwards, this buttock sucks inwards. And that's what we want. So push that front buttock forwards, keep turning this thigh, and then keep this standing leg really firm. Stretch the arms out and then reach over. Keep turning this inner leg around. But don't forget about that standing leg. Stand really firmly into the heel and then lift up away from the heel. So you're turning this leg and you're maintaining that strength of the standing leg with the other, with this, maintaining the focus of the standing leg. And then come back to the center and then back into Tadasana. Good. So you can move everything out of the way. We won't need that again. And then we'll do Trikonasana just one more time. So step nice and wide. Step nice and wide with your legs. And then I want you to turn your left toes in and then turn the left leg in and the right leg and foot all the way out. Now again, the same, this leg, this is our standing leg. So press really firmly down into that leg. But these toes, you can lift the toes and turn them towards the back of the room. It gets this thigh to rotate. It gets this back leg hip to push forwards. So with your fist, push your fist into that buttock, into that right buttock. So you lift the chest. Bring the toes down if they're lifted. Keep pushing that right buttock forwards. Keep standing really firmly down into that back leg and then come down. Keep turning this thigh. Keep really standing down firmly into that back leg. Rotate the chest to face the ceiling. So working like this gives you stability, hopefully. You got to really focus on that back leg, standing down onto that back leg, making that back leg firm so that it extends into the spine. Breathe nice and softly, soft in the jaw, soft in the tongue. And then come back to the center, just turn the toes in, just get your breath back, and then rotate the right toes in slightly, the left leg and foot all the way out. And again, getting this thigh to rotate really firmly so that that left buttock pushes forwards, standing firmly down into that standing leg, and then over into Trikonasana. Make contact. Sometimes you see people hovering, but that's a different method. You've got to press down into the heel of the hand and then lift up into the armpit. So turn in this leg, standing down onto the other leg, soft in the jaw, soft with the breath. Breathe in nice and softly. And then come back to the center. Bring the feet parallel and then step or jump your feet together. Lift the chest, spread the fingers, spread the palms. Breathe. And then just bring your feet hip width apart, turning your toes inwards slightly. Bring the thumbs into the crease of the elbows. And then come forwards and hang down. Can you maintain the action of the legs? Pressing the kneecap into the socket, pressing the thigh muscle firmly into the bone, lifting the thigh muscle up, lifting the seat bones away from the heels, letting the head hang down. So breathe in nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths. deliberate out breaths. Keeping the jaw soft, keeping the tongue soft. Okay, and then when you're ready, just release your hands down to the floor. Slowly come up into a standing position. And then we're going to just align ourselves along our mat, along the floor. Have your fingertips underneath your shoulders. Turn your toes under, walk your toes towards your head a little bit. So if you can come up with straight legs in this pose, then do. If that's too strong for you, then by all means, come up with bent knees. But come up into dog down. Keep the hands where they are, unless they're slightly out of line with each other. Keep the feet where they are again, unless they're slightly out of line. After that action in the legs, you should feel a little more give in your shoulders. So spread the palms, hit the outer elbows inwards, tighten the kneecaps, hit the thigh muscle, the frontal thigh muscle firmly into the bone. Lift the seat bones up towards the ceiling. Breathe nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. If I'm holding you for too long, then you can rest down. If you can stay and maintain, then do. So long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. Keeping the jaw soft, keeping the tongue soft. Okay, and then come down onto your knees and then stretch forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. So just stretching forwards, trying to make contact between the seat bones and the heels. Okay, and then just sit back on your heels and then come into a seated position for a moment. So just sit yourself in cross legs for a couple of moments, grip around your knees, and then just again work to lift the chest, draw the shoulders down away from your ears. Consciously soften your jaw and your tongue. Soften your tongue and notice that you soften in the eyes and around the forehead. Draw your breath down into the abdominal region, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. Okay, and then just gently release. I'll show you what we're going to do. So you'll need a belt. You don't necessarily need a proper yoga belt because we're not going to kind of tie it up or anything. Just a tie will be fine, or just a normal standard belt. So we're going to lay along the floor. If your head rolls back, you can have a blanket or a yoga block underneath your head, and then you're going to do Tadasana. Then you're going to lift up your right leg, put your foot around that right leg, and then you work this other leg, this left leg, you work it firmly into the floor, and then you work to lift this leg up towards the ceiling. And again, we're trying to get this inner thigh to rotate. So really, it's kind of turning this way. So we're trying to get this thigh to turn so that the hip is level as we lift. Then we're going to take hold of the belt a little bit closer, and then we bring the leg out to the side. But we keep this leg firmly down. So Supta Padangusthasana, 1 and 2. It feels great. So it's a really nice pose. So just come down onto your back and do Tadasana along the floor. So the inner edge of the feet are together, and you just have, if your head rolls back, put a blanket underneath your head, and then bend up your right leg, hook the belt around the right foot, and then extend that right leg up in the air. This other leg, I'm lifting it so you can see it, because you can't really see it, but you're flexing the heel, you're pulling the toes back, you're pressing the shin and the thigh firmly down into the floor. So just hold on to the belt, so you're not kind of lifting up like this. Your head is down on the floor, you're holding onto the belt, you're pushing the foot into the belt. So you lift the heel up towards the ceiling, and then so the belt is around the ball joint of the foot here. So the first stage is just to get this leg along the floor, work it firmly into the floor, and get this lifted leg straight. So you try and open the back of the knee by pressing the kneecap firmly into the socket, and then you're going to turn this frontal thigh outwards a little, like you were doing in Tadasana, in Trikonasana, sorry. So breathe in nice and softly. See if you can get that leg to turn. This leg needs to turn from the outside to the inside. So it's almost this corkscrew action, turning from the outside to the inside, so it stays firm. Take hold of both ends of your belt, rest your left hand on your hip, and then as you bring this leg out to the side, keep the elbow out in line with your shoulder, and then see if you can bring the leg out to the side. The aim is not to bend the knee, and the aim is not to bring it down, bring that right foot down onto the floor. If it's down on the floor, you've probably broken your pelvis. So keep pressing the thigh down, this left thigh firmly down onto the floor. Keep extending firmly into this right leg. Again, rotating that leg a little bit so that inner thigh rotates around to the outer thigh, so that these hips here stay level. And then bring the leg back up, and then release the foot in the belt, and then just rest down on the floor for a moment. Now there's always this kind of strange sensation that leg, that right leg, has grown a little bit. What we've done is energized it, but it's good to feel, isn't it? If only we could grow our legs like that. So have the inner edge of the feet together, push into the heel, pull your toes towards your kneecaps, and then bend up the left leg, and then hook your belt around that left leg. The other leg, work it firmly, push into the heel, pull the toes towards the kneecap, press that thigh of that leg down into the floor, turn this thigh inwards a little, turn this thigh outwards a little, so that you get these hips level here. Breathe in nice and softly to get that leg straight. It's better to have the leg here than to have the leg here and bending it. So the aim is to try and get this leg to straighten. So you really push the back of the knee into the socket, lengthen from the calf all the way up into the heel, and then take hold of the belt as close to the foot as you can, and then bend your elbow out in line with your shoulder. Bring the leg out to the side. Keep this thigh firmly down on the floor. So that this leg is straight. This inner thigh rotates slightly towards the little toe side. This leg rotates slightly inwards to keep these hips level. Breathe in nice and softly. So as you can see, the foot is nowhere near the floor. It's not important to get the foot into the floor. It's important to get the leg straight. Breathe in nice and softly, and then lift the leg. Just straighten that leg, just be in Supta Padangusthasana 1. Okay, and then just gently release the leg, and then just rest down on the floor for a moment or two. So long, slow, deep, deliberate in-breaths. deliberate out breaths, just allowing the breath to release down into the floor. So just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Keeping the jaw soft, keeping the tongue soft. And then when you're ready, just gently roll over onto your right side, sit yourself up and come into a seated position. So again, just sit on your folded blanket, or if you've got yoga blocks, sit yourself on your yoga blocks, but a folded blanket is fine as well. So you're going to sit yourself on the blanket. Let me just sit back again so a bit further so you can see my whole legs. So you're going to sit on the blanket and then stretch your legs out in front. Have the belt handy where you can reach it. So I want you to just roll over again, move the buttock flesh back and out to the side so that you can feel that the seat bones are pressing into the blanket or into the blocks. And then I want you to push your heels away. So you pull your toes towards your kneecaps, push the heels away, push into the inner heels, and then lift the chest. So the toes are trying to reach towards the kneecaps. The kneecaps are tightened, the thigh muscles are pressing down. And then you're going to reach up with your arms, extend into the little finger side. So the more you work into the little finger side, the more the front chest will lift upwards. But keep those legs. Don't let the legs just kind of do this, because you'll lose the action of the spine. So pushing into the heels, pressing slamming the thighs down, slamming the shins down, keeping the head lifted. Now, if you've got a bad back, you can stay at this stage. If you don't, keep your head lifted and then come forwards. But as you come forwards, try not to lose length here. So as you come forwards, I want you to keep lifting in the abdominal region. Keep the front chest long as you come forwards, and then see if you can find your feet. If you can't find your feet, if you need to bend your knees, or if you kind of shrink in the front chest and your back rounds like a tortoise shell, then use a belt around your feet. So give yourself a belt if you've got one, push the feet really firmly into the belt, and then give yourself enough rope to start off with, and then really work to lift this chest upwards, up through the armpits. Breathing nice and softly, working the kneecaps firmly down into the sockets, down onto the floor. If you can reach forwards, or you can just keep creeping your hands towards the feet on the belt. Keep lifting the chest, keep lifting the head. As soon as you drop your head, you start to wrap, you push your shoulder blades out. So keep the head lifted like someone's got hold of your ears and they're pulling you back. Keep pushing into the heels, keep pressing the thighs down into the floor, tightening the kneecaps. If you can reach around the feet, then do. And then we're coming all the way down. But if you can't come down, it doesn't matter. It's not important to come all the way down, especially if you force yourself. So just find a position where you can keep the head lifted to start off with, maybe bringing the elbows out to the sides to keep the collarbone broad, and come forwards, trying to maintain that lift of the front chest. And then just gently release. Stay sitting on the blocks or on the blanket, and then come into a cross leg position again. Just roll over, just move the buttock flesh out to the side, and then bring the legs so that ideally the legs are below the hips. Now my knees are slightly above my hips, so I'm going to use a little bit more of a lift to give me some more extension in my spine. So I'm going to sit myself on a couple of blocks like this. And then when you sit down, you find there's a kind of, these legs are parallel to the floor, or they can be almost sloping downwards. So grip around your knees and then lift the chest, drive the spine upwards. Just take a few deep in breaths, a few deep out breaths. You're lifting from the hip up into the armpit if you can. So bring your elbows apart a little. Breathe nice and softly. Soften the jaw, soften the tongue. And then from the abdomen, I want you to turn to the right side, but bringing the abdomen from the left to the right, drawing it across, drawing the ribs across, drawing the shoulders across, but try not to look over your shoulder, just look forwards. Lift the chest and turn. So breathe in nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. The left turns to the right. Long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Come back to the center, grip around the knees, lift the chest, drive the spine upwards, take a good, strong, deep in breath in through the nose. And then turn to the left. Again, drawing the abdomen flesh from the left, from the right to the left. Drawing the ribs across, drawing the shoulders across. Keeping your head level, chin level with the collarbone. Breathing nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate in breaths, deliberate out breaths. And then just gently come back to the center. Just move your equipment out of the way. And then we're going to come down into Supta Baddha Konasana. So pulling the feet towards you, soles of the feet together, knees nice and wide. If you've got stiff hips, you can always put some blocks underneath the thighs. If your head rolls back, put a block or a blanket underneath your head. Otherwise, just allow the body to rest down into the floor. Consciously listen to the sound of the breath. Soften the jaw by drawing the lower teeth away from the upper teeth. Soften the tongue. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. So using this pose to realign your spine. The hip region is open, the chest region is open. This pose of Supta Baddha Konasana is really beneficial for the promotion of positive thinking. So listening to the sound of the breath. Okay, and when you're ready, just draw your knees together. Have the knees together and the feet apart. So you just rest your have your knees together, your feet apart, just so that you're reversing the action on the hips. And then pull the knees towards the chest. Just rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself just a really gentle massage on the spine. And then when you're ready, just rock yourself up into a seated position. Good. So we're going to do Viparita Karani. So if you've got a couple of blocks, then that's good. If you've got a folded blanket, then that will work as well. So I'll show you. So you're going to come down onto your back. Soles of the feet come close, and then you bring the blocks underneath the seat bones, and the blocks kind of support the lower back as well, just a little bit. So the tailbone is just kind of hanging off the edge of the blocks. Then you grip your mat if you've got one. If you haven't got a mat, you can grip around the blocks, and then you turn the armpit chest forward. So you rotate the arms so that the crease of the elbows are facing the ceiling, so that you gather your shoulder blades together. Then you're going to bend your knees and you stretch your legs up to 12 o'clock, and then you stay. So if you're on a period or you've got eye or ear infections, don't stay upside down for too long. If you've got high or low blood pressure, just very, very briefly upside down. Otherwise, we'll do this for a couple of minutes. So if you haven't got a lift underneath, just use a rolled up towel or whatever, just to give you that extra little lift underneath. So come down onto your back, pull your feet towards you, bring the soles of the feet close to the buttocks, lift the buttocks upwards, place the blocks underneath your back. So the tailbone is literally just kind of hanging off the edge of the block. Get hold of the sides of the mat like you want to tear them apart, and then rotate the outer arms towards, the inner arms rather, towards the ceiling. So you rotate the inner arms so that the crease of the elbow faces the ceiling. Really lifting the chest, gathering the shoulder blades together so you're on the tops of your shoulders, and then bend your knees and then straighten your legs. Push the heels towards the ceiling, spread the toes. So if you struggle to keep the heels together, you can have your big toes together, the heels slightly apart, but get the legs to really lift. Push the heels up towards the ceiling, breathe nice and softly. So this is a supported inversion. It helps to support the immune system, and at the moment when we're all locked into our houses a little bit, we need a little bit of extra support for our immune systems, don't we? So inversions are really good for supporting the immune system. So pushing the heels up towards the ceiling. So try not to let the inner heels drop down to the floor. Push the inner heels away. Spread the toes. Tighten the kneecaps. Hit the thigh muscle into the bone. Stretch the backs of the calves from the backs of the knees up towards the heels, up towards the ceiling. Breathing nice and softly, long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Just stay in for a few more moments if you can, pushing the heels up towards the ceiling. Consciously soften your jaw. Consciously soften your tongue. Allow the breath to be deep and soft, long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. So in the middle of the room, this can feel like it's quite a lot of effort sometimes. So you can always do this with your legs kind of slightly. So your seat bones are right up against the wall and your legs are supported by the wall. And then you can stay for a while. This is just a way of reversing gravity on the organs, bringing freshly oxygenated blood into the immune system, just allowing the breath to be deep and soft. Okay, and whenever you're ready, just bend your knees, bring your feet back down onto the floor. Just stay there for a moment or two with the blocks underneath you. And then just lift the seat bones, remove the blocks from underneath. If there's any discomfort in your back, you can just pull your knees toward your chest, just rocking from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself that really gentle massage on the spine. It feels really nice, doesn't it? And then when you've recovered, bring yourself into a really good straight line right down the center of your mat. So the heels are together, your feet are together. You're just up on your elbows. Lift the chest as you bring yourself down. Have a block or a folded blanket for underneath your head. Just rest your hand. Make sure that all of the equipment is out of the way. We have quite a lot of equipment, don't we? So just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Close your eyes if you haven't done yet. And then you can just let your legs release. Let the feet fall apart. Just keep the hands on the lower ribs for a moment or two. Drawing the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Just releasing into the floor. And then when your hands are on your lower ribs, your elbows are in the right place. So keep the elbows where they are, and then straighten your arms, palms facing upwards. So the arms are slightly away from the body and the armpit area is open. Consciously soften your jaw. By drawing the lower teeth away from the upper teeth. Soften your tongue in your mouth. Allow the breath to become slightly longer and deeper. Keeping the jaw soft, keeping the tongue soft. Drawing the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Release in the inner ear. Allow the brain cells to move from the front of the brain down towards the base of the skull. If there are any areas of discomfort, consciously direct your out breath towards that region. And then just bringing the body back into this pose of Shavasana. So just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, just bringing the body back into this pose of Shavasana. And then roll over onto your right side. Stay down on your right side for a moment, no rush. And then straighten the top leg, come back into a seated position, just a final cross legs. With the hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. Drawing the breath in through the nose, down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you've released through your practice. Good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy with the extensions, the forward bends, the twists, the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then when you're ready, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world, to people, to places, to things that need our positive energy. And then just gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. As you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon.
So hopefully for the rest of the evening, you'll feel nice and energized and calm, and you should sleep really well as well after that. So that's always a nice little side effect. So I'm just going to go off of YouTube. So I'll just switch that